Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to the first non kind of sport this week, but to an extent sport this week video. Basically, it's just going to be a fighting based roundup. I'm going to do it the same as I did the sport this week videos if you ever watched any of them, but it's just going to be boxing and MMA news. If you are new around here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do need like video, and let's get straight into it. So, this is what I'm going to be doing every week from now on. Like I said, similar kind of format to how I did the Sport This Week videos, and that is just going through the week's news and all the fights. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to explain. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So I'm going to start off with the boxing, and that is going to start off with Brown versus Smith, Medina versus Mangushev, Louise, Jones, Pemberton, De Jesus, and Ingram will fight on the 26th of May. Also, I will be giving my little bits of opinion on certain fight news, but not all of it. Dubois will fight Lescano on the 16th of June. Dubois is no longer training with McGuigan, so that is Daniel Dubois no longer training with McGuigan. It's interesting to see because they've been together for quite a while now training, and maybe that's towards maybe Dubois wanting to go and change up his opponents. It seems like McGuigan didn't want the Usyk fight for Dubois, and Dubois wanted that fight, so maybe there was a bit of a falling out. I'm not too sure. Kelly will fight to Corzo on the 24th of June. Hughes will fight to Healy on the 10th of June. Same different opponent, same goal for Hughes. Of course, we've had her on the channel. Go check out the interview if you have not done so already. Best of luck to her. Lil Kimji as signed with Happy Punch. Burton as retired. Clark will fight Watch on the 16th of June. Davis versus Cunningham. James versus Akbar. James and Akbar will fight on the 29th of July. Good to see Akbar still developing well with Queensbury. KSI versus Fournier has now become a no contest, which I think is the right decision. I think KSI, even himself, agrees that is the right decision, and I feel like there is no need to make the fight again, and I believe it won't happen again. But of course, justice has been served. I don't think it should have been disqualification, and it wasn't. And so, good to see boxing's got that one right. Eubank Jr. is now working with David Haye for the upcoming Smith rematch. It'll be interesting to see if that changes anything. I know that Jones Jr. was working with Eubank Jr. And now I think Haye is going to kind of come in as like the understudy or whatever to that. So I'm sure that's going to add an element to his game. Baumgartner versus Leonard 2 rematch. Hitchens versus Love. Cruz versus Burgos. And Cruz will fight on the 15th of July. Very excited to see Cruz's debut. And I quite like the Hitchens versus Love fight. It'll be interesting to see how Love's dealing with coming back from the loss when he was, in his own right, a big name, and now he's coming off the loss. Be interesting to see how he deals with that. Courtney won via points versus Radomska. Donovan won via TKO in round 6 versus O'Mason. Carty won via TKO in round 2 versus McFarlane to become Ireland Celtic heavyweight champion. Akiako won via unanimous decision versus Dennis. Felix won via TKO in round 3 versus Cully. That was a big upset, and the whole week Cully was being built up, and a lot of people are now saying that he's not what everybody kind of thought he'd be. Metcalf won by unanimous decision versus Hogan to become IBO World Super Welterweight Champion. I did not predict that one right. Cameron won by majority decision versus Taylor to remain IBO, IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO World Super Lightweight Champion. Big win for her, huge win for her. Deserved. Glad to see that she managed to get the result. There was a lot of people, including herself, which at that time when they were reading out the scores, didn't think she was going to get it because of just the way that boxing is and it being in Taylor's hometown and everything. But she did manage to get the win, and congratulations to her. She fought a very good fight and pretty much did what she had to do and put the pressure on when needed. And I think the rematch is going to happen, and I think it should be for the lightweight titles of Taylor's. And it seems like it's going to be in Ireland again, which of course is a disappointment, I suppose, for Cameron, because she's going to be at a disadvantage again. But first, it will be interesting to see how Cameron deals with being at lightweight, And second of all, it's going to be interesting to see if she can get another decision, or if she can't stop Taylor again whilst Taylor's in her home country, which is always going to play a factor. But she managed to do it this time and kind of spoil the homecoming for Taylor. Moving on, Vargas won via KO in round 2 versus Ajaso. Jones won via TK in round 6 versus Hill. Mason won via TK in round 6 versus Leons. Diaz won via unanimous decision versus Saavedra. Ali Walsh drew versus Rosenberger. That's interesting to see. It's gonna be. I'd imagine they're just gonna keep building them up like they have been top rank, but that's a bit of a interesting thing to see, as they probably shouldn't be happening at this point in his career, as they are bigging him up to be this very big name. Valdez won via unanimous decision versus Lopez. I believe the Navarrete fight should happen now. It was a good win for him. I don't know if the Navarrete fight's going to be amazing, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting, I'm sure, and it probably will be quite entertaining, I suppose. And yeah, I think it's about time that it should happen. Muratala won via TK in round 2 versus Nakatila to become North American and WBO Global Lightweight Champion. Nakatani won via KO in round 12 versus Maloney to become WBO World Super Flyweight Champion. That was a big win for Nakatani. I said that he'd win, so I got that right, that prediction. But the way that he did it as well, fair play to him, ruined the kind of Maloney run that the twins were going on. Of course, one's got the world title and now one hasn't. But I've always thought that the other Maloney was better. I've got them confused names wise now, but I always thought the other one was better, and it's unfortunate. But what can you do? Nakatani fought a great fight and had a great knockout. Haney won via unanimous decision versus Lomachenko to remain IBF, WBA, Super, WBC, and WBO World Lightweight Champion. And I think, just to get it straight off the back, I don't think it was a robbery. I think anybody saying it was a robbery, in my opinion, is wrong. I think it was a very close fight. I don't think the scorecards should have been as wide as they were. I completely agree with what certain people are saying in that aspect, and I think, in my opinion, Lomachenko probably did do enough to win, but I also see the complete opposite side of things, where Haney probably did do enough in times as well. I think Lomachenko was coming on well at the end of the fight, possibly a round or two more than it was probably going to go to Lomachenko, but Haney, he fought a decent game plan. I don't think that was the best Haney out there, to be honest, and I've definitely seen better performances from him. Loma fought very, very well, and I think even though he is the only fighter in the kind of big names in the lightweight division to have the losses on his record, I still think there's something about him that he brings to the table that I don't think the rest of them big name fighters do, and that means anybody he faces should be an entertaining and a good fight. And so, in my opinion, this would be in the ideal world of fights that I'd like to see be made. If you're looking at the kind of big six names, you've got Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Davis, Frank Martin, Zepeda, and Lomachenko. In my opinion, if that was ever going to happen, I very much doubt this will happen. Martin should face Zepeda. Loma should face Davis, in my opinion, and Stevenson should face Haney. I'm just saying that based off the fact that it seems like Haney's going to be facing Stevenson just because of what happened in the ring after with them, and I think the current state of what Davis is going on with his whole kind of stuff outside the ring, I don't think he's quite ready to fight yet, and so I think Loma might have a little bit of time out, but I think that fight will be an amazing fight as well. And so in a perfect ideal world, I know boxing never runs like this, but the lightweight division has been the only division where we've been getting these fights as of recent. So if that would be how I'd like to see it. If it will, then it'd be amazing. If it doesn't, then there's still great fights in there nonetheless. Moving on, El Hadri won via unanimous decision versus Chappelle. Perez won via KO in round 7 versus Calameno. Chiquitu won via TK in round 5 versus Rodriguez. Mamedov won via split decision versus Facundo Arce to become IBA Intercontinental Super Lightweight Champion. Lescurat won via TK in round 8 versus Aguilar to remain WBA Super Flyweight Champion. I did predict that right, and was good for Lescuret to be able to get the stoppage in there, as she stopped somebody in Aguiar, who is a bit of a stoppage, kind of known for doing it, for getting her stoppages herself, and so credit to her. Harper will fight Habazian on the 27th of May, and Kambosos Jr. has signed with Top Rank, and that also means that there's going to be probably another option in there for a big fight. So possibly Loma, if he wants to fight Kambosos, that would be another good fight as well, and I'd be up for seeing that. Or maybe if Kambosos fights Frank Martin or Zepeda or Joseph Diaz, I don't know. I'm just thinking of names off the top of my head. I think I was thinking of somebody else, not Joseph Diaz. Anyway, that's all the boxing news. Moving on now to the MMA news. So, Poirier vs Gaethje, Blachowicz versus Pereira, Costa versus Aliskerov, Ferguson versus Green, and Chiesa versus Holland will fight on the 29th of July. That is a very entertaining looking card, and in my opinion, the fight that stands out is the Blachowicz versus Pereira fight. Of course, I don't know what's going on with Ankalaev as to why that fight isn't happening. There might be some injury or whatever, but that is a very interesting matchup. It means that Adesanya is probably definitely not going to be fighting Pereira in the recent times. So he's got a little bit more options of where he can do and what he can do. And Blachowicz, I think this is going to be a very good tough test, and it's going to be the power punches. So I'm expecting a big knockout, and it'll be an entertaining fight, hopefully. Alongside Poirier versus Gaethje, the rematch for the BMF title, which is currently vacant. Moving on, Sterling versus O'Malley and Zhang versus Lemos will fight on the 19th of August. Good to see that fight getting announced early on, as Sterling and O'Malley, that hype is still there, because that fight was just, that kind of face-off was just about a week or two ago now, so that hype is still there, and it's good to see that matchup's been made, and it's going to be a good fight. That I can't wait for that one. Wood will fight Philly on the 22nd of July. There will now be 3 pay-per-view UFC events in Australia within the next 4 years, so they're planning for the likes of Adesanya and Volkanovski. That is all fair enough. Ferreira won via KO in round 2 versus Johnson. Buckley won via KO in round 2 versus Fiallo. Godinez won via KO in round 2 versus Johnson. Won via decision versus Ducote. Hernandez won via KO in round 3 versus Shabazian. Dern won via decision versus Hill. And Ngannou has signed a partnership with the PFL. It's good to see that finally there's some deal around with Ngannou. Obviously, the PFL in itself isn't really a great organisation for him to be going to make massively big heavyweight fights, and he's only partnered with them at the moment, and it seems like he's still got a bit of an injury, but he's looking to possibly have a boxing fight in between that time and probably end up starting fighting with the PFL mid to late next year. So if there is going to be any kind of fight that's going to happen in boxing, I doubt it's going to be any of the big names, because they're all seemingly wrapped up with the Saudi tournament. So I don't really know. It wouldn't surprise me if it's just a mediocre boxer that they just kind of throw at him, and maybe he's past his prime or whatever, and it's not. It wouldn't surprise me if it's not going to be an entertaining. Well, it'd be entertaining, but it's not going to be like a mad matchup. But either way, it's going to be interesting. I still believe that Ngannou will or should have stayed in the UFC, of course, like most people do. But he's paving his own way, and he seems to have a lot more freedom with the PFL. So fair play to him in that aspect for standing his ground. But I just don't think there's anything else going to happen at the moment. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy this kind of format, this new style. If you are new around here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do like the video, and thanks for watching.